G'day, this is X-Band the Phantom Podcast. We are a website, a podcast, and a way of life. You can find us at chroniclechamber.com. I am Jermaine, and we have Scott all the way from US, and we have Steve all the way from Melbourne. How are you guys going?
I'll start. As soon as you said wait, I just started laughing. I hadn't heard that one before, but yeah, no, you're right.
How are you, Scott?
Doing great. It's the end of a long week. It's Friday night for me, so it's been looking forward to this. Been looking forward to talking about what we're talking about today.
Yes. So, as you would know, probably by now, that wouldn't come as a surprise once you start watching or listening to us, but we are going to be doing a wrap up of Defenders of the Earth Series 1. Now, we call it Series 1 because as of the time of recording, Series 2 will be coming out starting December 2025. Wouldn't be surprised if that gets pushed out a month or two, but more on that later. So we're going to be doing a wrap-up of it. We did a mid-series review. Scott, you joined us for that one. So you are doing our reviews for the Defenders of the Earth. You'll be doing Moonstone when that comes out, and you'll also be doing the regular Phantom series, which we will be talking about that in one of our next podcasts. I believe that is episode 317.
So, this issue was written by Dan DiDio, and it was primarily drawn by Jim Calafiore. Wancho did the colors, and Carlos M. Manguel did the letters for almost all the issues there. We did have a couple fill-in artists for issue 6, I believe. I do not have those names off the top of my head here written down, but
Sal Velluto, Brent Shuvanova, and there was one other artist that helped with Brent. Sal Velluto, of course, will be known to a lot of Phantom fans around the world because he's done work for Hermes, Fru, Phantom Man, etc., etc. Brent did some of the King Phantom series for Dynamite. Now, I believe the connection there is the editor that's come on board. I can't remember her name, but she was an editor over at Dynamite, and then she's come over to Moonstone, and that's how Brent became involved. So a lot of it is about the relationship games, and I believe Brent's also done some work for Dick Tracy. I think he might have done a couple of covers or something as well. So if we had a betting market, which we don't because the Phantom's not that big, but Brent or might be one of the early favorites for the new Defenders of the Earth Phantom series.
yeah, and I know for the follow-up we have Dan DiDio coming back, scripting more of them. As far as the other credits, I don't think we don't really have any other credits yet that are like formally announced, do we?
No. And I believe Mad Cave actually so they had a pre-order on their website, which I think they've actually removed. So when it was on their website, it was listed for December 2025, but I wouldn't be surprised if that gets delayed a little bit to the first quarter of 2026.
Issue number 1, Homecoming. The year is 2020, and instead of a worldwide pandemic, the Earth is fighting an onslaught from Mongo. 3/4 of the Defenders of the Earth, Mandrake, the Phantom, and Lothar, are making what seems to be their last stand. When all seems lost, suddenly the ice soldiers are frozen, and out from a cloud of explosion tumbles Ming the Merciless's head, followed by Flash Gordon. The war is over, and Earth is safe. Fast forward to 2024, and the Earth has been rebuilt, thanks in no small part to Ming's son Crotar. He has been given sanctuary for his assistance in bringing down Ming by Flash Gordon, who has asked the Defenders to trust him. They kinda do, reluctantly. However, in rebuilding the Earth, has Flash forgotten what's important, or is he being purposely separated from it? And what about the Phantom? How bad are his injuries that he can't go back to Bengala, even after 4 years? He desperately wants to get back, especially as rumors have spread about a new ghost that is hunting the Sing, using any means necessary. Issue number 2, Killing Time. Mandrake has returned to the stage and everyone thinks he's lost it. Why waste time on the stage when everyone else wants to get to the bottom of Crotan's plans? But is it just the ultimate diversion from the consummate illusionist, a sleight of hand that allows him to investigate without arousing suspicion? Talking about suspicion, why is that worker at Ice Station Earth looking very familiar to Rick Gordon? Issue number 3, Phantom Pains. The Phantom longs to return to Bangala, but Mandrake's magic is holding him back. In fact, it's the only thing keeping him alive. Meanwhile, Rick has touched a nerve and gotten the supercomputer Octon's attention, and now is under attack by the ice soldiers that everyone thought had been decimated. But while that's going on, all Flash can do is work late and order takeaway. Or is that just what he's saying? Issue number 4, Whiplash. Family finally wins out, and Flash Gordon is there to rescue Rick in the nick of time. They make it to Xanadu, where Mandrake and the Phantom are waiting. They soon learn that Crotan has already had the ear of the president, who has marked them as erratic and a danger to the country, and have given them 1 hour to turn themselves in. However, the scanners indicate that ships are moving in fast. It's going to have to take a blast from the past to escape this one. Issue number 5, Brotherly Hate. Thanks to Mandrake's research and development, the Phantom is now free to roam the world, which is lucky as the Defenders have reached the 7 nations in Africa to meet with the new chieftain, Lothar's ex-wife, Chakara. While Lothar and Flash Gordon head to the meeting, the Phantom has his own family issues to contend with. His brother Kurt has set a trap, but who actually is the one being hunted? Also, is Chakara truly on side? Is there something sinister lurking in the shadows? Issue number 6, Brief Interludes. With Jedda and LJ recuperating in hospital, everything is calm. For now. Chakara isn't bending the knee to Ice Station Earth. Rather, she's keeping a close eye on the movements of Princess Castra's escort on the edge of the jungle, and on Crotan's troops that are just sneakily hiding over the mountain ridge. But who's watching who? Speaking of Princess Castra, will one last meeting with Flash have her joining the Defenders, or will Flash Gordon fall at her feet? Issue number 7, Grand Finale, Part 1. Flash Gordon awakes in his hospital bed, the memory of Ming's death fresh in his mind, which is now clear of distorts and distractions. The attack on the 7 nations has begun, and everyone is holding their own. But even with Jedda's newfound strength of 10 tigers, will it be enough? Fortunately, Chieftain Chakara has a few tricks up her sleeve, which seem to match her fiery demeanor. But one should always be wary of enemies bearing gifts. Issue number 8, Grand Finale, Part 2. It's time for the last hurrah. Who will stand? Who will fall? Questions will be answered. Sacrifices will be made. Will these 8 heroes prove their worth? Can they truly be called Defenders of the Earth? Back to you, Jim.
Thank you for that very detailed plot summary, Steve. So, as you can tell, there is spoilers in this podcast. If you don't like spoilers or you haven't read it, you've only got yourself to blame. The regular issues have been out for a while, and the trade paperbacks, Volume 1 and Volume 2, are out now, which you can get. And that's the reason why we've waited until now to do a review of the Defenders of the Earth, is because we wanted to give as many people the opportunity to read the series as possible with the release of the trade paperback. So now what we're going to do is we're going to have a bit of a discussion about some points we want to raise and some stuff that we feel is worthy of discussion. And then we're going to go from there. And then we're going to go have some questions for the next issue. And then, yeah, have some, and as always, if you think there's something we have missed or you don't agree with us, we would love to hear your thoughts. You can comment on YouTube or the various social media platforms. So first one I want to ask is Ming dead? Do you think Ming is really dead? What do you guys reckon?
No. I think so. I know we've covered these in reviews. They're on the YouTube channel. Um, if you've read any of the Flash Gordon quarterly issues, there are those little Defenders of the Earth side stories. They're like 5 to 6 pages. And in that one, there's one, I think it's Flash Gordon Quarterly number 3, where it clearly shows that Ming's consciousness or something has entered Octon. And there are little like hints to it in the series, particularly in I want to say issue 6 and 8 or 7 for Defenders of the Earth, where Octon's acting weird, and Crotan will be like, there's one comment where Octon says, our army or my creations, and Crotan's like, what do you mean your creations or our army, to try to check it. And I feel like that's your cue that it's not like Octon proper. It's this weird Ming hybrid personality, consciousness, whatever it is that's going in there. I think all this is leading to at some point in the future. I know in my reviews I kind of beat on this a little bit, thinking it would happen sooner, and I was wrong. But I think at some point in the future we'll see Ming come back, and that's kind of, I feel like that's a very Flash Gordon thing to begin with too. That's something that's it's happened before.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So you don't think that Crotan doesn't know that Ming's still alive, or Ming's into Octon? It's all going to be a surprise to him as well.
I don't think he knows is
Yeah.
kind of, I feel like Crotan's characterization, and you guys, feel free to disagree with me. I feel like he's kind of the way he's been portrayed is kind of the young upstart who's very full of himself and thinks he can do it better than dad. And he learned the hard way. And actually, I would argue that I think something maybe that'll come in this next series is that his dad tried to sabotage him a little bit, or Ming's or Octon or whatever tried to throw a wrench in there to kind of prove his son wrong. And a lot of that comes back from those quarterly issues where the one where Ming dies, where they show it, Ming's like, well, I've actually called back my army. Like, good luck. You're not gonna like kill me and claim victory. I'm pulling back.
And wasn't Crotan was killed in the last issue as well by one of the ice robot slaves, wasn't
Yeah, yeah.
he? Yeah.
As far as we
Yeah,
know, I mean,
it kind of looks like that. And I was wondering what was going on there, because you got Dale as well, who's in the system, and is it Octon that's controlling, or was it Dale just before he was going to say something? I thought, oh, something's going on here.
Mm. Well, the way
We're not getting
yeah.
we're not getting all the story, or not getting all the plot, which is nice. We've got something for the second series.
Yeah. But if Dale's consciousness or whatever you want to call it can be alive in the computer, it's not a stretch for Ming's consciousness or whatever to be in Octon.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
right.
They're just
yeah,
it's already there.
yeah,
And
like
like
it's an
they say she's in 2 places at the end of issue 8. Whatever that
mm,
means, they're very cryptic about it, but there's 2 signals. She's in 2 places, and we did see at one point Crotan had her body.
Yeah, that's right.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Now, for a lot of fans, this is a little bit different because um, like Phantoms, I don't, and it like the covers say in the world of Flash Gordon, so it's definitely a sci-fi angle where a lot of Phantom fans are more not fans of the science fiction. So this might be a little bit hard for some Phantom fans to kind of grasp and even enjoy. But I reckon there's enough Phantom that you can still enjoy it. Like what do you think, Steve? Like you're a Phantom fan, a traditional Phantom fan, if I can label you like that. Is there enough Phantom in this Defenders of the Earth for you?
Absolutely. Around was it about issues 2 and 3, I think. Um, Maybe even 4. I can't quite remember. They're in the jungle, and the Phantom's longing to be in the jungle, and they really play up a few of the jungle sayings. And really, the Defenders of the Earth have been around for 40 years now. That is old school stuff by now. You don't have to be a huge science fiction fan, but I know you said traditionalist, but I was a kid when Defenders of the Earth came on. first came out, that was great. That was really enjoyed it. So
Now you're
I
showing
think
your age,
I
mate.
think yeah, well, I think the generation older than me might be a bit more fuddy-duddy about science fiction stuff, and this isn't their Phantom, but I'm not. I was all for it. And I was,
So
I
in
was wondering about this.
other
I
words,
was
Dan, and that's the reason why he's not here because it's not my
but
Phantom.
but what I was actually wondering about this morning, before coming on here, I thought, how does it relate to the last comic series that wasn't Defenders of the Earth, but the King's Quest type stuff, the um, stuff that had the last team up with the Phantom and Mandrake and Lothar and Mandrake. Oh, who'd I miss? Flash, of course. But then also added in, Jungle Jim and these other guys. How does the series relate to that? Like that Phantom, I don't think was the Phantom, whereas this Phantom, in a lot of aspects, is a lot more of the Phantom that we know.
Yeah. So I don't think there's any relationship, but I think you raise a good point where Dynamite tried to blow up the Phantom, so to
Mm,
speak. Like, they had it as, oh, it's some random guy who took the mantle, but it wasn't really the Phantom, and now he's trying to find the son, and then they changed it to his daughter, and it just became a dog's breakfast while they were trying to be too woke. Um, where I think this is still like it's still got the Phantom, it's got Jedda, it still smells or it still tastes, it still feels like my Phantom that I kind of grew up on. That I can read it and I can go, okay, this isn't too far removed from a Phantom that I can enjoy.
yeah, and it's not the 21st Phantom; it's the 24th Phantom, isn't it? In the series, or that's how it was back in the day.
27th.
27th. There
27th.
we go. Even further removed, but
Mm.
still has that element, the essence of being the Phantom.
I'm not familiar with that Dynamite series, so, I can't comment on that. But I mean, I feel like this has enough of the like Phantom stuff and ethereal, aspects of it where it feels very much like just, it is the Phantom and it's close enough. Obviously there's some weird changes. There's obviously very Defenders of the Earth changes, the power of the
Hmm.
10 Tigers and all that. Um, and, I guess there could be an argument on like his status in the Phantom world just because you have like his brother running around and you have the whole council and how they feel about him specifically, especially since, he's kind of a big proponent of Jeddah and there's this kind of a rift there that really, it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't really speak to anything. It doesn't really get resolved, I
Mm.
don't think. I feel like those things try to like do something new or different with it and kind of veer off the path and, maybe that'll be something that they'll talk more about in the next series, but
Yeah, I
overall,
like
I'd
the
say close.
yeah, and I like the addition of Kurt, because Kurt's someone who was in
Yeah.
the original Defenders of the Earth
Yeah.
series. So bringing him back, I thought was a great idea, tying it back to that.
And he's in the original four-issue series too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Even
And
has a cover with him on it.
I think having Kurt and having that focus on the Phantom helps the Phantom fans feel connection because it's like, and I know it with some collectors who are collecting the variant covers and they're like, well, I haven't collected the variant covers, but I've collected these ones because it's got the Phantom, on the variant cover. So it's like, like they feel more connected to the series because it has that more of a focus on the Phantom. Um, so I think that's a good point. I guess you make the mention of the Phantom Council. Now, I must admit, I still don't know what the point of the Phantom Council is. Like, what was the point of that?
I was trying to figure that out. I was rereading it, shortly, within the last day or two, I went through all eight of them again. And when I was reading that part, I was trying to like I feel like it reads better on the second read through. I will say that once you know the ending of issue 8 and you go back to issue 1, you're like, ah, I get it. But the council, I still don't fully understand. Mandrake's trying to show Phantom something, and so he leads him to that door, and it's so he can have this conversation, and Mandrake interrupts, once things start to get a little heated. And, I'm not, is that supposed to motivate him, inspire him, get him like resolved to like he's kind of bummed about being stuck in Xanadu and hanging around the mansion. Is that supposed to kind of reinvigorate him in some way? It's not really, I don't think it's made explicit enough to really understand what the intention was there because it doesn't really seem to have much weight on the rest of the story other than we find out that he wants Jedda to take the mantle, but it's like totally against the oath. And
which
so that's,
yeah, which is a load of bogus because the Phantom has had, you've got Julie Walker, which was the 17th Phantom's brother. So it's like
Sister.
for me, I thought where we were going with the Phantoms Council was that that the past Phantoms were going to basically give a kick up the backside of the current Phantom, like, hey, stop being a sook and get out there and fight. Remember your oath. Remember the legacy, and that's where I thought it was going. But it was almost like they were portrayed as a bunch of chauvinistic pigs, and it was kind of like, well, that doesn't. And for a traditionalist Phantom fan, and I feel old saying that, but it was kind of like it didn't give me the perspective of the Phantom. At the end of the day, like the drawing looked awesome. Like the way Jim Calafiore drew, that double page spread of the Phantoms. Yeah, that was amazing. But it almost feels like that was the sole purpose of having that was having a cool splash page. I
yeah.
I don't see the purpose of the Phantom Council.
Yeah, I don't really think there is much one. The one thing that we did see there, though, is like Kit's dad is more on his side, and obviously he comes back as like a ghost later on to talk to Jeddah and kind of go like, "Hey, it's your time," But like, it's just, I think you're right. The older Phantoms just look bad, in terms of like
Hmm.
how their attitudes are towards this. Like, I don't know if they're not really. I think the hard thing too is like, so this goes into the theme of the story. So like the whole story overall, when you look at everything that happens, there's this theme that um the world has changed. The defenders aren't really needed anymore. They're kind of seen as old fashioned. And after this big war with Ming, people just want the quick solution, which Crotan is there to offer. So it's like this kind of corruption through, hey, I'm offering you guys an easy out. It's a new world. No one cares about Mandrake, Phantom, Lothar anymore. Flash has just become a poster boy that's, under mind control. And so like this theme of like, the rest of the story seemed around this idea of the old-fashioned stuff, those values, that hard work is what we want and what we value, and it kind of comes into form at the end, and they kind of like talk about it like, hey, it's great to get back together. We're all on the same team, and we're bringing these values back. But then you have that whole council scene where it's like the reverse, and it doesn't tie into that other theme. There's no like complicated explanation that Dan DiDio's trying to go for, and it's not. I think the story is stuffed with a lot of events unfolding, so it's kind of hard to shove that in there, but it feels incongruent with the rest of it.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing about not I wasn't I was kind of ignored the Phantom Council a bit, and but going on about your themes of the quick solution rather than the hard solution. Um, I thought it was very much a commentary on modern life, really.
Microwave generation.
Yeah, like yeah, it's gone from the TV generation where had a half hour attention span with a couple of breaks for ads to the like I said, microwave generation, 5 minutes. Now it's a TikTok generation, and if it's not done in 30 seconds, it's all over.
Yeah, yeah,
Or 2 second meme. But yeah, now we're getting towards the meme generation, which is 5 seconds most.
yeah, yeah. That's interesting. So I guess another point I want to raise, and we are a Phantom podcast, so most of the stuff we are going to talk about is the Phantom, of course. Um, is the Phantom the dad, the original or the current, whatever terminology you want to use? Is he still a ghost who walks, or is he alive? Does he just fade into obscurity? Like, where do we see the Phantom?
Well, I mean, the ring is still on, and that's the rule. If that ring comes off again, he's gone for good. So, but I don't know if that means he's technically alive or I mean, he can throw punches and shoot people and, whatever, but he can ride a horse. I just don't know. Does that mean it's, physical and he's alive again? Or is it like kind of like that movie Ghost where he's learned to like reach out and affect the physical realm? I don't know.
I know. People can see
So
him. He seems to be there,
yeah.
and yeah, taking up mass, and yeah.
So will we see him in the second series, or will Jedda stop becoming Jedda, and will she now be the Phantom?
If they go Jeddah, it would be a whole passing the mantle from the older generation to the younger generation. It wouldn't just be a
Mm.
one-off character.
Or
I reckon it'd be all
or
four.
or so you reckon all four maybe in the new series, or could they? That's interesting. Whether the Jedda's kind of like the first of all of them becoming the new Defenders of the Earth. Maybe that's going to be the title of the series: is the new Defenders of the Earth. We have to come up with a new song and everything like that. And yeah,
When eight became four.
yeah.
I mean, I think Jetta's the new Phantom. I think that's kind of evident, but they all seem to be going to Mongo together at the end of issue 8.
So could Mongo be like the retirement village for the old Defenders while the new
I
Defenders?
don't know. I mean, maybe. I do kind of wonder, actually, that brings up a question though, like for Phantom fans, how much of the second series is going to be spent on Mongo?
Mm.
Wasn't there a,
Because
a teaser somewhere called, rather than calling Defenders of the Earth, it was Defenders of Mongo? Wasn't that it?
yeah, the
Didn't I read
the
that
last
somewhere?
panel.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then I think the new series is not called that. I don't think from memory. I can't. I'll
No,
bring
it's
up.
just like I think it's Defenders of Mongo with a question mark.
Yeah,
I
on
think
the
it's just a bit
last
of a
panel. Yeah,
tongue-in-cheek thing. Yeah.
Which I don't know how up to date you guys are in your Flash Gordon lore, but it is a huge place with a lot of different races and aliens, and it's it's a lot of stories just mined on that one planet. So that's why I kind of I'm wondering, like, is this going to be 8 issues of
yeah,
Phantom hanging out on some alien world, going through their jungle, or is it going to be 2 issues and they go back home and we see Phantom in his native, landscape?
yeah. So on Mad Cave's website, when they put it up there, the new series was called Dark Destiny.
Mm.
So yeah, so that I yeah. I don't know. I reckon you might be onto something, Steve. That maybe it's going to become eight becomes four. So
That was just a reaction to what you guys said. I hadn't given any thought of that at all until you guys said something, and then bang, there it is.
but that's where this podcast goes, though. We've got like we've got 5 pages of notes, and eight becomes four. The others, the kids becoming adults and taking on the mantles of their fathers. That was not one of the points that we discussed.
No, I was still waiting
Um,
for point number one about the guns, and you've gone on to all this other stuff.
And now
Because I
people
didn't even
wonder.
realize.
Now people wonder how our podcast gets so long. Is we start off with a run sheet on everything we do, but we never stick to it.
No, especially when
So
you skip the first point and go
yeah,
straight
so
down to mouse.
yeah. So let's do that. Let's go to the first point. This was another thing that I must admit I don't understand yet. And I did actually, I'm not sure if you remember, Scott, but I actually tasked you. I said, Scott, can you do me a favor and can you go through the whole series and try and find out why on earth the Phantom has revolver guns? Like, is there a reason for it? Now, can you answer that question for us? Why does the Phantom have revolver guns?
Thing about it is, I remember that, and then when I read the first issue, in the first panel with Phantom, he's holding revolver guns, and it's just consistent all the way through. Now, Kurt does not use a revolver. He has a semi-automatic handgun. So I found that very strange. Our Phantom running around with two revolvers. Kurt's like, yeah, I got these semi. I'm a little living a little more now. And when I did go back to the old series, and Phantom doesn't carry guns in the old series. He's got his belt, but there's nothing on it. There's no holsters. So, I was flipping through it and I'm like, is he gonna pop out some revolvers or something? Is this like an old series thing? And it's not in the comic series. So there's no explanation for it that I can find why he just suddenly just has these. It's just an aesthetic choice I feel like they started with, and
Yeah.
maybe it's a way they help differentiate between the two phantoms, because they do a little bit of a color change with the suit. One is brighter than the others. And obviously, the kit doesn't have like the striped underwear. And then, maybe the gun too, when you're just seeing two phantom arms holding guns, there's that, difference there to try to just create that. There's no story explanation for it, I guess is the short of it.
Okay. So I didn't miss something. I'm glad to know that because I remember the imagery came out, and one of the first things I noticed is why is he wearing why is he? And someone who someone told me, oh yeah, it gets explained in the story, and I'm like, okay, it gets explained in the story, and I've had that in the back of my back of my head, like, okay, it's going to be explained in the story, and then I read up to issue 8, and I'm like, I've missed something. Why is it? And that's why I said, Scott, can you do me a favor and tell me what I've missed? Because I know you've read these stories in great detail with our reviews, which have been really good. But yeah, I'm glad I'm not the only one who hasn't figured out what it was.
Also, he's using them against robots.
Yeah.
So in my head, I'm just constantly thinking of like ricochet sounds, as he's like shooting these robots.
But what was funny though is that I didn't notice until I read that point. And thought, oh, really? And I went back and read it. Oh, and then, but no, that's exactly what Scott just said. That he's got the old school guns, and Kurt's got the semi-automatic ones.
The only thing I kind of that disappointed me a little bit was I feel like in the first act we get a lot of Phantom, or enough. In that second act, I feel like, especially when you get towards the climax, it's just like the Flash Gordon show, which I mean, I like Flash Gordon. I read a lot of them, like, but as far as Phantom goes, he feels kind of sidelined.
Mm.
Well, it is
I
from
don't
the
know if you
world of Flash
guys,
Gordon. He's supposed to be the main character, I guess. It's his world,
yeah, it is his
and
villain.
yeah, it's his villain, and it's always kind of been a bit more the Flash Gordon show, even back. Well, I feel even back in the 80s, because like you said, it's his villain. It's Ming the Merciless. Um, and I don't know, they probably think that Flash Gordon's more recognizable than the other three, but that's just ideas.
Mm. It makes seeing the 27th or the dad disappearing, that kind of gives me the feeling that I'm not sure we will actually see him in series 2. And it's like Dan's already tried to kill off him by being shot in the first couple of issues. So I
The
think
first couple of
it's
pages.
yeah, first couple of pages, so it kind of feels like, he's going to be the first one kind of flicked to the side, and we'll see Jeddah being it, which I don't know. Like, look, Jeddah from the cartoon series, I really enjoyed. I've named my daughter. My daughter has the middle name Jeddah. So but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see whether it's still going to, if that does happen, and we're projecting, we're guessing, we have no inside word here. It's going to be interesting how that will be received by some fans.
I mean, you might be right on that too, and just thinking about Dan DiDio and a lot of his other work outside of this, he does like to do those surprises and kill bigger characters. He's notoriously known for wanting to get rid of Nightwing in the world of Batman, like
Oh,
getting
not
rid of Dick
Nightwing.
Grayson and kicking Nightwing to the curb. So,
I like Nightwing.
um, so you might be right. He might be looking for like a major player to kind of just push off the table and.
Now, from a practical point of view, I think it will be easier because you can kind of when you've when you create Jeddah, so in a sense it's going to be like year one, like you're creating her almost from scratch as the Phantom. You're going to be able to have more freedom with her role, whether if you're having an established Phantom, there's a way that us Phantom fans expect the Phantom to behave and stuff like that. But if you've got a new Phantom, there's more flexibility in, how you can almost see that Phantom behaving. And I think it gives the creators more room in the sandbox as well. So yeah, so I think it will be easier for them to be able to create a series that fans will accept. I don't know if that kind of makes sense or not.
I'd say so. And like, her being younger and everything, it means you have a character where she can fail a lot, and it's like part of the journey.
Yeah, and it almost feels like readers, and I'm not just talking about fans here, but I'm talking about like everyone kind of like that in their heroes. Like for instance, you've got Spider-Man who, can can kind of be like even in the Marvel universe, you've got Iron Man who was, a playboy and stuff like that. It was not perfect where the Phantom almost kind of fits in the perfect, he's molded from childhood. He's been expected to be good and stuff like that. A bit like Superman, where it almost feels like some readers prefer their heroes having some failings. I'm not sure if that kind of makes sense or whether you even agree with that, but maybe
There's always got to be some sort of failings, otherwise there's no danger. There's no
yeah,
plot unless there's some element of failure. However, on your point about the Marvel movies and all that sort of stuff, where we see people growing into their characters and making those mistakes and what have you, I- I should look at the numbers beforehand, but from my own opinion, I think the quality of Marvel movies have gone down if they just keep repeating the same formula of, oh, here's a new hero, let's see them try and become a hero, and all the. I'm getting tired of it. I really, really like the new Superman movie. He's come in, he's already Superman. He's been Superman for 3 years or whatever. He knows what he's doing. Of course, there's challenges, but it's a challenge that a hero makes rather than he's still becoming the hero. So I'm a little bit tired of the becoming a hero trope. I like to go back now to or snap back to the here's the established hero. Let's see the challenges that they're facing.
yeah.
But that's my perspective, and I don't know if I'm a majority or minority, but that's me.
So Scott, as someone who lives in the US, and has been probably exposed to a lot more, of these type of characters and comics and stuff, especially than what I am. Like, what are your thoughts about that?
I mean, I agree, Stephen. Like, I'm totally there. I'm not too fond of a lot of MCU movies. There's like occasional one or two I might and gravitate towards, but I like the new Superman movie a lot. I mean, it felt like there was a theme and there was an idea they wanted to go for, and they just ran for it in like kind of a traditional superhero story, kind of an old framework of, we really want to talk about like this issue or this dynamic, and we're not going to bother ourselves with like Superman, like, oh, let's see him grow up and grow up on the farm and whatever. Um, and I kind of wonder if there's like a shift back towards that, just in general. I feel like people maybe are getting tired of it, and as an aside, I find it kind of interesting that a lot of the people I talk to when talk to about their like pull lists at comic shops, they pick a lot of like indie books or like, these weird swings like Mad Cave Studios. They're buying like a lineup from the 30s with their characters. They have the Phantom, they have Defenders of the Earth, they have Flash Gordon, they have Dick Tracy, they have all these old school, comic strip characters that they're pumping out books for, and they seem to be doing really well. And I just kind of wonder if there's just, we've had a lot of the, personal growth, coming of age hero stories, and we had a lot of, there was a while where Batman was just going through it emotionally, where it's like, we got to have an emotionally damaged hero who's just like at the end of his rope and he's having a breakdown. And maybe we're kind of on the other side of it where we want to just have these, you know, classic feeling stories. And it kind of gives me hope that maybe, with Phantom coming out again in the States, maybe that's where we're going to go. It's going to be like 1990 again, where at the box office you have Dick Tracy, and a couple years later you'll have the Phantom, and there's the Rocketeer and the Shadow, and all those things just kind of flooding the market.
Yeah, some good old school stories. It's good. And I was actually also thinking on the same vein of the new Superman. He's an established hero. If you've seen and then talk about Marvel, the new Fantastic Four movie did the same sort of thing. They are already established. It's not them coming to terms with being the Fantastic Four. They are already established. So it could be the new, the two big superhero movies of the year, Superman and the Fantastic Four, have done this. They've done away with the um, origin story, and they're already established heroes. So, yeah, I like it. But we'll see what happens in the comics.
Interesting, interesting. One more thing to raise about what's happened in the first series. And I know this is something that we've discussed off podcast. I was about to say off online, but we actually did discuss it online. So it's off podcast is Mandrake's trick with how do you say it? The mansion.
Xanadu.
Xanadu.
Oh,
Was
yeah.
that
Weren't you an Olivia
convenient,
Newton-John
or
fan?
Nah, mate.
That's how I know how to say it. Not that I was a fan, but I just was exposed to it.
So is that like, was it clever? Was it, clever on Dan's behalf, or was it just him painting himself in a corner of how is he going to do this? And then it was like, oh, it's just the convenient way of doing it. Oh, where are you guys sitting on it?
At first, I was like, it was super convenient on reread. I still think it's a little too convenient, but I could see where the way Mandrake is characterized from the beginning of the book is that he's always one step ahead,
Yeah.
and he always like he has this tone of like he knows what's really going on. Even when the first issue, the first few pages after the war, he's like, yeah, there's something up. I can't tell you about it because I'm just working through it, but I'll tell you later. So it seems like he's just designed to be that way. And I think his little twist at the climax of the series, plays into that. But
The
this
dolls.
whole Xanadu trick is just
Yeah.
the Xanadu thing, I think, doesn't make sense when you're like, well, it's been like 4 years. So why was Phantom trapped,
Yeah.
in the mansion, not in his like at home? Why was he all the way over here? Why couldn't you just like do this sooner and let him go home? Because he's just been moping around.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
does he does like the theatrics of it.
Yeah.
He's a performer.
He reminds me a lot of Doctor Strange in the Marvel movies. You know how like Doctor Strange, with the end game and all, and I hate to bring it back to that, but Doctor Strange was 4 steps ahead of everyone, seeing all the possible endings and stuff like that. And that's was kind of like the depiction of Mandrake as well, is he was so far ahead of the game, like the little figurines that became life-size robots that could fight the robots, and like there was a scene where they're like, come on, Mandrake, help us, stop giving away all these little dolls of yourself. That's egotistical, and that's the way it was kind of portrayed. But yeah, you're right. He was 4 steps ahead of everyone.
Yeah, he was written as if he's the smartest person in the room.
Yeah, and I didn't mind that with I did not mind that with Mandrake. I thought because even like in the original cartoon, he was kind of like that, but he wasn't like that. But I think Dan's taking him up another level in this series. Now, another thing which we see in the first series, and I wonder if we're going to see it in the next series. So we're kind of moving to what we want to see in the next series here, is Lothar. We see Lothar's ex-wife. Now, apart from Dale, this is the first time we see any of the mums, if that kind of makes sense. Like we don't see Jedda's mum. This is the first time we see Lothar's mum. Obviously, Dale, we see her in the first TV episode, and then we don't see her again because she becomes a ghost in the machine. But yeah, it's and obviously, and we don't see Mandrake's wife, Nadia, either. So it's interesting that we've seen Lothar's ex-wife, and I wonder if we might see anything more in the next series.
I don't know. I think they kind of avoid that one just because it's not like it's Kit Walker, but like it's the
Mm.
27th Phantom, So it wouldn't be Diana, Like I don't
Yeah.
necessarily. And so I wonder if they just purposely avoid it completely to kind of avoid introducing some brand new character and maybe making some fans angry or, you know, just having yet another person who has the same name, as like an older character in this timeline.
It's a real 80s TV show thing though. Like a lot of the cartoons, like you never really see the mum in a lot of the stuff. Like, you know,
Yeah.
so it's a real trope from the 80s. You've got the superhero dads and then you've got the kids and so yeah, I don't know. I guess will there be a romance between Jedda and Rick Gordon? There was sometimes hinted one in the
Or
TV
was it LJ?
series.
I think I read a little bit there between Jeddah and LJ too. Like, who's she playing? Who's she? What's going on?
I mean, I think a love triangle would spice things up a little bit.
I would spice things up. Could be a civil war. Won't just be war on Mongo.
So that will be series three, eh? Civil War.
Yeah.
Um, so and then the other thing is Princess Castra kind of disappears in I think it was issue 7. Will
Yeah.
she be a player in the second series?
She went home with Octon. They tell you
Yeah.
that. So like, Octon who totally works for Crotan, but obviously has the spirit of Ming in there, is just like, yeah, my daughter and I are just leaving. See you later.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting whether, and then will we see another like because in the original was it the original Flash Gordon comic series? Was there always something between Flash and Castra?
She was actually named Princess Aura in the original series. So there is a princess that's Ming's daughter, and she plays she's totally after Flash and has a crush on him. But then there's a general who betrays Ming and kind of does his own thing called Prince Barin, who ends up, being in love with Princess Aura. So there's like a love triangle and everything. But as far as I know, I haven't read every Flash thing, but there is no Princess Castra. It's just like
Okay.
a Defenders of the Earth thing.
Yeah. So it's Princess Aura that had the
Yeah,
whole yeah, okay.
but
Okay.
same role.
So
Yeah.
who's this Prince Barin that you just mentioned? Has he got something to do with this Barin Atomics? That's the
I
whole
would
thing
think so. It's
throughout the
got his
story?
name on it.
Yeah, right.
That's like they call it Barin Atomics. I'm like, oh yeah, Prince. If you've seen the '80s Flash Gordon movie, it was Timothy Dalton that played him.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, he's Flash Gordon's best friend on Mongo. He's just another alien, and they start off as enemies and they become good friends.
Yeah, right.
And then Kashin, like again, Kashin, you're not really sure where he is, where he kind of fits at the beginning. Like, is he mind controlled and then he kind of flips sides almost. It kind of feels like where do you think they're going to progress Kashin's character? Is he going to become more magical and replace Mandrake? Is Mandrake going to take his Xanadu castle, go off to the French Alps and live there and retire? And
I mean, if 8 becomes 4, Kashin's already started using some magics.
you're going to have to come up with the new song, Steve. You
Ah,
know,
I was
eight
trying to come up
becomes four.
with another line. Eight become four. The old men are gone. It's I don't know. Now the old men are gone, and eight becomes four. Yeah, forevermore.
So what would you like to see in the new series? Is there anything that that's kind of like, okay, I want to see this. Do we want to see more of the Phantom? Do we want to see, like where are we? Like, what are we looking forward to? Like, obviously, we know we're getting another series. We know there's a good chance that this series is likely to be on Mongo with the last page on the last tease, which we've talked about before. We know the title series is called Dark Destiny, so it kind of makes you think that, that we're talking about destinies here, or whether it's destinies of the heroes, destinies of the villains, or other characters like Prince Barin and stuff like that. Either from a series point of view or from a Phantom point of view, what would you like to see?
I think first and foremost, you want good stories. You want something that takes you away. It's escapism. So if
Yep.
it's boring and mundane, I don't want that. Being a Phantom fan, of course, I want to see more Phantom. And I want to make sure that's true to the characters.
Yep.
I'd
But
like to see maybe
as
more
to
of like,
plots and stuff, yeah, up to the
yeah, I'd
creators.
like to see more of the Phantom's world, maybe like kind of
Mm,
come into the fray. Like they moved the mansion to the Seven Nations, and so maybe they go to Mongo for a bit. Maybe they come back and we see like the Bandar, or maybe there's a way to work in the Sky Pirates or something in there. We did have the Sing Brotherhood,
that's right.
so very
Yeah.
briefly, Kurt was going around like executing all of them until they swore allegiance to him. But
Yeah, and Africa
something.
seems like it needs help. So maybe, maybe the Dad Phantom can stay in Africa while Jedda, floats between the two planets and the worlds and stuff like that, and the Phantom can focus on, on Africa and, retire, so to speak.
He can run a business, Phantom Incorporated. Just have different Phantoms all over the world.
All over the worlds. Um, yeah, I must admit, I'm not really sure what I want to see from the new series. I would like to see more, like I want to, and I said this before, before we even recorded. I think for the Phantom to become popular and to continue producing comics and newspaper stories and free comics and Phantom Man comics and stuff like that, I think we need a Phantom series to be successful in America. And so I think, the more Mad Cave produce with Defenders of the Earth, I think's good as long as it features the Phantom. Um, I think on a whole, I think the Phantom, the way he is portrayed in this series, in the first series, is wholesome, is my Phantom. And so as long as we see my Phantom in the new series, I think I'm okay, whether it's Jedda or what. But that's probably my main thing, is that I don't want it to turn into a jungle Batman or Tarzan wearing tights. That's my biggest concern about people producing their own stories. Thank you, guys. Thank you, listeners, for listening or watching us. Our website is chroniclechamber.com and our email is chroniclechamber@gmail.com. We would love to hear your thoughts, feedback, and opinions on our social media platforms or over at the YouTube channel. For the audio lovers who like our voices in their ears while they drive or exercise, you can subscribe to us via your favorite podcast apps, including iTunes or Spotify. Thank you. Please get in contact with us. And as always, happy Phantoming.
Happy Phantoming.
Happy Phantoming.